Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another FutureFight Vanguard video. Welcome back to our FutureFight series for V-BT09. We are finishing up V-BT09 today, actually, with the Luquier deck. So this is another Pale Moon variant that is coming out of this set. It is actually the Silverthorne variant, and it's an archetype, so it's not, it's very different from how it works with Harry. I would even argue that they both have their own strengths and weaknesses, but Luquier is still a very strong deck. But because of the consistency, I would say that it's a little bit stronger than Harry, just because of the consistency, like the grade 3 problem with Harry. Obviously with Harry, you want to run a certain build that, cultivates getting your cards into the soul. The same thing with Silverthorne, except Silverthorne is more accurate at doing it, and you can, specific soul charge a lot better. You can also get to grade 3 a lot better in this variant. So we're going to talk about the differences and the strengths and the weaknesses of this deck, but let's get right into it. If you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe down below and click the bell button so you don't have to miss a single Cardfight Empire video going forward. Also, be sure to like the video if you like it. Comment down below letting me know your thoughts on the build. If you have your own specific build, what are your friends playing? What are you playing? What do you like? What do you dislike about this build? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, be sure to check out my second channel if you guys are interested in anime, animation, or video games. That is Let's Plays Animes down in the description below. Check out our Twitch at LPAEmpire, and check out that join button if you guys would like to become a channel member and contribute and or are interested in perks of the channel. But with that being said, let's get right into today's deck. This is, like I said, the Luquier deck. So this is Silverthorne. Pretty much every card in here is Silverthorne, which helps your archetype because you have a lot of cards that specify that it needs to be Silverthorne that you're doing a certain skill for. So let's talk about it. So first of all, we have our first grade 3 in the deck, which is our ace grade 3 in the deck, coincidentally. Now this is like a good alternative card to the regular Luquier. However, key differences between the normal Luquier and Venus Luquier is that Venus Luquier is counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand. Obviously Luquier is counterblast 2, discard a card from your hand, and then the counterblast 2 Luquier, the regular one, can call out any Silverthorne cards to your back row and your front row, and then the Venus Luquier can only call to your front row. So that's very important to note because a disclaimer, in the first game I messed up and I thought that Venus Luquier could just call anywhere, and it turns out it can only call to front row, and no one called me on that while I was playing them, so I didn't know. And I misread the card when I read it, so I was just convinced that I knew the skill. However, yes, key differences between the two. Also, Venus Luquier gives 5k to your front row, and then Luquier just gives power to herself. So basically, it's better to have this Luquier on rearguard and this one on Vanguard. Also because this is Vanguard rearguard skill, and then these are only Vanguard skills. So the two Vanguard skills that it has is, the first one is a continuous ability that says, during your turn, if all of your front row circles have units on them, then all of your front row units get plus 5,000 power. So including your Vanguard gives plus 5,000 to your Vanguard and all your rearguards in the front, assuming that you have a full front row, which you always will if you're playing this deck correctly. And then the second skill, which really helps out the first skill, is once per turn you can counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand. Then you get to call any number of Silverthorne cards and their card names from your soul to the front row. And then at the end of that turn, if you have 4 more rearguards, you put all your rearguards into the soul, and then you can gain an imaginary gift Accel, which if you're going imaginary gift Accel 2, then you get to draw a card. So you're obviously, getting back that card that you discarded earlier in the turn for this card's ability. So things to note is that you can't call back row with this card. However, what you can do is you can make sure that you, like, let's say that you already have some grade 2s in your hand, or you already have some grade 2s on the board from the previous turn or something like that, because you chose not to shove, then you can actually move those cards back and then use this card skill to call to the front row. You can call out grade 1s and then just switch the position of your rear guard. So that is one workaround to this card if you're not playing against control or something like that and you're not worried about it. Then for our next grade 3, we're running 4 of the regular Luquier, which is Silverthorne Dragon Tamer Luquier. So Vanguard rearguard, like we said before, during your turn, if you called 2 or more cards from your soul this turn, this card gets plus 10,000 power. So pretty easy 22k base by itself to attack. pretty strong and makes good numbers on Protect and Accel clans. And then the other Vanguard skill, which you guys should know if you guys played the old Silverthorne deck, because this used to be the main ace card. So you would counterboss 2 and discard a card, and then you can call any number of cards with Silverthorne in its card name from your soul to rearguard circle, and all of your front row rearguards get plus 3,000 power to the end of the turn. So clearly it's not Venus Luquier. It's not absolutely, you know, changing a guard stage every single time, because this is plus 5,000, this is plus 3,000. Also, this only applies to your front row rearguards and not your Vanguard. Not that your Vanguard needs it if you're on this, because it will be getting 10k. But yeah, it's just good to have, you know, if you have this on rearguard circle, obviously it'll be getting its 10k, and then it also gets the 5k from Venus Luquier, which makes it 27 by itself, which is very, very good. So just another reason why you want to be on Venus Luquier at most of all times. Then we have one Silverthorne Beasthammer Dorian. We would run more of her, but she's actually restricted to 1 in both standard and premium formats. So we are running the 1 that we are allotted of her. And then her skill is at the end of your turn, you can put all other rear guards into your soul, and then draw a card for every 2 cards put into your soul for this cost. And if you put 4 more cards in your soul with this card's ability, then you can return a grade 3 card with Silverthorne in its card name from your soul to your hand, and then you retire this unit on the rear guard circle. So obviously you only get 1 use of her per game. You pretty much just use it early. Like, I would put her into the soul with Lillian or something like that, so that immediately when you go for, you know, Venus Luquier skill or regular Luquier skill, you can pull out Dorian and do Dorian shenanigans there. You can also choose not to use Dorian immediately. So if you go for, you know, shoving everything in the soul with Venus Luquier, you cannot use Dorian and Venus Luquier in the same turn, because they both require that you shove in all of the rear guards. And so if you activate, even though they activate at the same time, you choose which one activates first, and then the other one cannot activate because it, you know, won't have cost to do the skill. So if you find yourself, you know, not being able to use Dorian to its full ability, aka, you know, getting a grade 3 back from your hand because you put 4 more in, then I would just go for Venus Luquier and, you know, pop all your 4 rear guards into soul, including Dorian, and then get yourself an Accel marker. So yeah, moving on to our grade 2s. We have 4 Silverthorne Diva Sylvia. So Sylvia's skill is when placed, counterboss 1, and then choose up to 2 cards with Silverthorne in its card named, not named Sylvia, from your soul, and call them to rearguard circle. So this card actually helps you, it helps the Venus Luquier kind of become regular Luquier. Like, you can call out Sylvia, and then you can use Sylvia's counterboss 1 to call out, you know, 2 grade 1s or a grade 1 in your grade 0 starter or something like that. So you can basically use it to call out back row. Or if you're on grade 2 turn and you're just now writing this as grade 2, you can still call out 2, which is very useful for when you know, use Romy in the first turn or something like that. You can call Romy back out. Romy's great for, you know, stacking your deck and just really pulling out all the cards out of your deck that aren't triggers. So that's beautiful and wonderful, and you should do it in that way. Moving on to our next grade 2, we have 4 Silverthorne Marionette Lillian. So what Lillian does is she has a Vanguard rearguard skill for her first skill that says, when placed from the hand on the Vanguard or rearguard circle, you may counterboss 1 if you choose to, and then search your deck for up to 1 card with Silverthorne in its name, put it into your soul, and shuffle your deck. So obviously, the first Lillian I ever use, I would just get Dorian. If you already have Dorian, then it's up to you what you would like to choose to put in the soul. Like, you know, go for something that you think that you need. I would probably still put a grade 3 in a soul because it's the card that I least likely want to check in my drive check. And then you can also, you know, with Dorian, pull out grade 3s and get them to your hand so that you can have them to re-ride for the next turn. So I would just put grade 3s in the soul with Lillian's effect. That's just me. But you guys can pick whatever you want as long as you do Dorian first and then anything else second. So then its rearguard ability is when it attacks a Vanguard, if your soul has 4 more cards with Silverthorne, and in their different card names, this unit gets plus 10,000 power until the end of the battle. So it can become a 19k swinger by itself. Pretty easy to fulfill its skill because of Romy's existence. So Romy makes it not hard at all to fulfill its condition, because you will be shoving hella Silverthorne cards, hella different Silverthorne cards into your soul using Lillian. Next up for our last grade 2 in the deck, we have 4 Silverthorne Rising Dragon at 4. This has the same ability as the regular Luquier, which is that on Rearguard Circle, if you call 2 or more cards from your soul this turn, this unit gets plus 10,000 power. So can swing for 19k by itself. Obviously, if it's on an Accel 2 circle, 24k by itself. If it's on Accel 1 circle, 29k by itself. So it makes very good numbers, and it's just a beater for you to use in your deck, because this deck is pretty much all about getting big numbers to try to beat your opponent's face in so that you can win the game off of your big numbers. Next up, starting off with our grade 1s, we have 4 Silverthorne Assistant Irina. So Irina is actually our ideal grade 1 ride in this deck because of its second ability, but let's go over its first ability first, which is on the Rearguard Circle. When you place it from hand, you can look at 2 cards from the top of your deck, put a card from among them into the soul, and then put a card from among them on the bottom of your deck. So this is what I was talking about with the specific soul charging thing. So you have this card to help you specific soul charge, as well as Romy as well. So it makes your deck very thin very quickly, and then it also ensures that you're just starting to check only triggers, which can be, you know, obviously very good. It's Vanguard. And then the second skill is when rode upon. So when you go from, when you have this card on your as your grade 1 Vanguard ride and you're going to grade 2, you may activate this card's ability. So you look at the top 3 cards from your deck and then put any number of cards with Silverthorne in its card name into your soul and put the rest of them on bottom. And then if you put 2 or more cards in your soul, you get to draw a card. So not only does it put 2 normal units into your soul, maybe even 3, but then allows you to draw a card as well. So it allows you to bonus off of what you already wanted to do. So that's very, very good. Next, we have 4 Silverthorne Handle Grip Lena. So what Lena does is Vanguard Rearguard Circle. When this card attacks or boosts, you can soul charge one, and this unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So it can be a 13k attacker or a booster. Also helps you soul charge. Even though it's a random soul charge, you just kind of hope that you don't soul charge a trigger, and you get a 13k attacker or booster out of it. Can be very, very good. Then for our next grade 1, we have 3 Silverthorne Conjurer Romy. So we only run 3 Romy because you can reuse the hell out of her between calling her from the soul like a bunch of times, and just, you know, her only cost of her skill being rest this unit and put it in the soul. That's essentially free. So you can look at the top 3 cards from your deck after you pay her cost, and then you can put any number of cards with Silverthorne in their card names from among them into your soul and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So very, very good card. Obviously is good at stacking your deck. You don't really have cards that shuffle your deck in this deck, except for Lillian. So basically every other card is like stacking your deck by putting cards on the bottom. So you can also remember your stack in that way and know which triggers you're going to check when you get to a certain point in the game, as long as you haven't used Lillian to shuffle. Then for our last grade 1 in the deck, we run 1 Silverthorne Breathing Dragon. So what Breathing Dragon does is, at the end of the battle that it boosted on the Rearguard Circle, if your soul has 4 or more cards with Silverthorne and different card names, which just like Lillian's skill, you know, for its power, is very easy to fulfill, then you can counterboss 1 and put a Rearguard with Silverthorne in its card name into your soul, and then you can call a card with Silverthorne in its card name from your soul to Rearguard Circle. So what Breathing Dragon does is it actually allows you multiple more attacks, and then if you have Sylvia in your soul, you can actually call out Sylvia, and then you can reset your entire front row. So basically you can attack with Rearguard, attack with Vanguard if you want, and then you can use Breathing Dragon skill to counterblast 1, and if you have the counterblast, you can call out Sylvia, and then Sylvia can counterblast 1 and call out 2 more attackers on your other 2 Rearguard circles. So it can actually do a max of 7 attacks if you have all the pieces in there to be able to do so. And so I think that's very, very good, especially when your opponent's at 5 damage and it's hard for your opponent to you know, take any attacks anyways, because they would die if they do. So then for our starter, we run 1 Silverthorne Assistant Inelia. So what Inelia does is when you ride upon her, you draw a card just like every other starter in the game at standard in this point. And then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 1 or greater, put a quick shield ticket into your hand. Obviously you have, you know, your main Vanguard's discard card. So if you still have your quick shield ticket, by the time you get to grade 3, you can discard it for the abilities, or just use it for, you know, some quick guard in the early game. Can definitely help you out here and there. So for our triggers, we run 8 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal, running 3 Dynamite Juggler, 2 Poison Juggler, 2 Silverthorne Barking Dragon, 4 Hades Hypnotist, which is our Sentinel Draw trigger, and 4 Tinder Breeder. Now, some people might say that you should be running for Silverthorne Barking Dragon because it's a Silverthorne card, but in all honesty, I never want to shove a trigger into the soul on purpose. So usually when this card is in my, you know, top or whatever, whatever I'm checking, the top card of my decks, if this card is there, I usually just opt to put it back to the bottom of the deck because I don't want to pull a trigger out of my soul willingly. So, or sorry, I don't want to pull a trigger out of my deck willingly. So that is something that I always do. So I never worry about how much I'm running. I pretty much just run a mixed crit ratio to throw off my opponent, so they might think that I'm running, you know, some variant of crits that I'm not, which adds more pressure to your opponent's mind state. So going right into the games here, we're playing against Genesis in game 1. It looks like this is the Astral Force deck. So we ride Linnea and we pass turn. Our opponent rides DK of Just Path, draws a card, and then uses DK skill to put a card in the soul, and then looks at the top 7, gets 2, and then deals us the damage. We take it, and then we use Counterboss 1 to get Lillian. As you guys can see with Lillian, we put the Dorian into the soul, and we finish out our attack. Our opponent rides Mutsuki, and then uses the effect of Atlas Spear to draw a card, and I actually didn't even notice that he was supposed to use Atlas Spear, like he used Atlas Spear wrong because he wasn't supposed to be able to use it on Mutsuki. But it's okay. There's lots of misplays in this game because this is my first game playing with the Venus Luquier deck. So as you guys can see, I actually called out like a full board with Venus Luquier, which I was not supposed to do. So I used Romy skill, which I was also not supposed to do because technically it shouldn't have been there. But what I could have done instead is I could have moved back the Lillian that I had here and then just called the one that I had from hand. And it essentially would have been the same without these Linneas here. So we do check a draw trigger, and then we attack for a 47. Our opponent just takes that, gets a draw trigger. We shove everything in the soul, and we generate an Accel 2. Our opponent rides into Astrea's Dragon, gets a force marker, uses another Atlas, shoves the soul. And so another reason why I guess it didn't really matter that he used Atlas in the previous turn is because he was going to have 2 Atlases to use anyways for this turn. So that's just kind of how I'm choosing to think about it. But he does attack me for 13 and then 21. So we ride Venus Luquier again, and then we use Venus skill to call out, you know, and then this is what was making me think that this deck was absolutely broken, is I was just calling out full boards off of Luquier, and my opponent wasn't correcting me at all. So it was kind of wild that this deck has been out for a while on area. But maybe my opponent just doesn't play on area a lot. But I played 2 Irenas from hand, and I used like a bunch of stacking abilities. So I attack for 22. My opponent guards it. I attack for 32. My opponent guards it. I attack for 32 again. My opponent takes it. I attack for 32 again. My opponent guards it. I attack for 25. And then my opponent goes for a 2 to pass. I put all the crit, all the rear guard, and then I attack for 47, and my opponent has to take it and die. So I guess we were both doing kind of illegal stuff. Not even kind of, like we really were doing illegal stuff from there. So I think game 2 is when I reread this card and I learned that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to. I hope that it was game 2. If not, it's game 3. But yeah, guys, please don't smite me. I didn't know. You guys know that these videos are the first time I'm like touching the deck ever, so I just misread it, and I always figure that someone will correct me if I'm doing a skill that wrong, because I feel like I would correct someone. That's broken that you can do that. But I use Irina skill, and then I use Lillian, Counterboss 1, put Dorian into the soul. Then I call another Lillian using a skill. I put a Venus Luquier in the soul. I use Romy, look at top 3, put all 3 in there. And then I attack for 9, then I attack with Vanguard, I get a crit. And then I attack for 29. Then my opponent rides a Lone Narrows, counterbossing 1, look at the top 3 cards, and call an Ancient Dragon to the board. And then calls another Alaneros, counterboss 1, look at the top 3, and doesn't call one, and then he attacks for 17, which we choose to take. He doesn't get anything, we get a crit, adding the power to Vanguard, and we block the rearguard attack. So we ride a Venus Luquier. Then we use Venus Luquier skill to counterboss 1, discard 1. So again, this was the game where I was calling to the back row because I was just thinking like, oh my god, this is like such a broken, you know, update to Silverthorns, and turns out it just doesn't work that way. So my opponents were just letting me do this, which is crazy. But yeah, so then we swing with comparable numbers to what we had before. To be fair, our back row is only increasing it by 8k, and our opponent, because he had 2 grade 3s in his hand, would not have been able to survive anyways with the triggers that we checked. So our opponent just dies on the first grade 3 turn, and yeah, there's not much that can be said about that game. And then Luquier game 3, which I believe is where I finally learned my lesson, and I was banging my head against the wall like, oh my god, Josh, you so dumb. But I didn't want to re-record extra games for anyone who might ask that question. I didn't want to record extra games, one, because area went down during that time, and then I also figured that later when I came back, like, it wouldn't be a true FutureFight video, because the games are supposed to like signify how I played with the deck when I first put my hands on it, not when I'm like really experienced with it. So that just kind of helps new people know which mistakes they're not supposed to make and stuff like that you can easily mistake in a game of Vanguard. So basically just learn from me, don't make the mistakes that I did, and yeah, have better Vanguard games. But we're taking the grade 2 attack against our opponent, so we're riding Venus Luquier. We're using Venus skill, kind of +1. Call out 2 cards to the front row. So this is the game where my opponent actually told me that, you know, I could only call the front row. And I was like, dang, I've been playing this deck all wrong. So you guys can see there. So I attacked for 17, then 32. My opponent checked 2 damage triggers, which is really good. Then he no guarded for a 1 to pass. We did a draw trigger, and we did bypass the attack. We used Dorian to draw 2, and then we got the skill of Dorian to get the Luquier into our hand. Our opponent rides the original deity of Heavenly Light, Uranus, and then uses all these skills to get cards in hand, stuff like that. And it appears he cannot make the astral plane this turn, so he does attack a Vanguard and gets a crit and a heal, which is still very swole. And then he attacks us with a very swole column after that. So we ride and we use Venus Luquier to call out 4 cards. This is when Sylvia comes into play, and I realized why this card does what it does is because it's supposed to turn your, you know, essentially it's supposed to turn your Venus Luquier into a regular Luquier without being on regular Luquier. So it allows me to call out some back row units, and so I do check double draw trigger PG, which against this deck is like super P, like you want PGs in this matchup, so that was super broken that I checked that. And then my opponent plays out some cards, goes for DK, getting another force marker to Vanguard, and then uses the skill to go into astral plane, and then calls Valkyrian. Valkyrian discards 1, so it has 1 drive check. And so Valkyrian attacks us with 70. We PG that with ease. And then he restands Valkyrian. We get attacks for 53. We PG that as well. Our opponent checks double crit. So that's very strong. And then our opponent attacks with this big column, attacks with this big column, which we also choose to guard. And then attacks with Valkyrian again, and we PG. So as you guys can see in that previous turn, if we didn't check double PG, we might have been in trouble there. But now we're able to use Venus Luquier skill to call out a full front row board, and that is just so good. And we decided to not call out, even though we could. We decided to not call out, you know, for putting these double Luquiers down in our hand, because they would make bigger columns against our opponent. So we're attacking with all these big columns, and our opponent just cannot take it, and eventually just loses because of it. But yeah, that has been the FutureFight Vanguard video for Luquier. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like on the video. Comment down below letting me know how mad you are that I misplayed the skills of Venus Luquier, because I know that someone's going to do it. Someone's going to tell me, Josh, you're so stupid. You're so stupid. Why did you misplay like that? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I already said that I misplayed, and I owned up to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Anyways, besides that, if you did, be sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below letting me know your thoughts, and subscribe and click the bell button so you don't have to miss any future content. Also, be sure to check out that join button down below if you guys want to become a member, and I'll see you guys on the next video for FutureFight for the new set. Peace, guys.